She said the first thing that stood out about her is her personality. She's funny, like really funny, and she's a great teammate. Now, how many people have we heard say Caitlin Clark's a great teammate? Pretty much everybody. Pretty much everybody. This ain't a Chicago Sky situation where Courtney Vandersloot got to go on camera and defend herself because somebody said something they wasn't supposed to and all this other stuff.
That right there is what genuine respect sounds like. Makayla Timpson, the Fever's rookie forward, just offered one of the most telling endorsements of Caitlin Clark we've heard all season. What stands out most is what she chose to emphasize first. Not basketball skills or statistics, but Clark's personality and the kind of teammate she is. That detail matters, especially after months of hearing certain voices try to paint a very different picture of who Caitlin Clark is in the locker room.
Also quoted as saying, I love her, the things she's able to control and that she doesn't show. I couldn't imagine going through the stuff she goes through, but she stays strong. Now, that's just kind of referring to the spotlight. Everything you do is being talked about, is under a microscope. Every missed shot, every made shot, everything that comes with being Caitlin Clark is a lot to take on. So Makayla Timpson.
Now catch that specific detail. I couldn't imagine going through the stuff she goes through, but she stays strong. Timpson is talking about the microscope, constant scrutiny, every missed shot turning into a narrative, every interaction analyzed frame by frame. What makes her perspective especially meaningful is that she's seeing all of this up close as a rookie, witnessing both the public version of Caitlin Clark and the person she is in the locker room. The gap between what Timpson experiences firsthand and what some media figures have tried to suggest on the outside is clearly stark enough that she felt compelled to speak on it. And that matters, because this isn't a veteran protecting a franchise player or a coach doing damage control. This is a 21-year-old rookie with no political reason to go out of her way to praise Clark's character. She's doing it simply because that's what she's actually experiencing.
With Natasha Howard gone, who should be gone, she talking about she wanted to win MVP and all of this stuff. We should see an uptick in production and minutes for Makayla Timpson. I think Makayla Timpson was very effective in the minutes she got in her rookie year. And I think with an off season to work, get more experience playing overseas professionally, I think she'll be a good player for Caitlin Clark.
And this is where Timpson's development becomes crucial to understanding the Fever's ceiling next season. With Natasha Howard gone, a player who openly talked about wanting MVP recognition, while the team struggled to find chemistry, those minutes and touches have to be redistributed. Timpson, who shot 43% from three in limited minutes as a rookie, fits that opportunity perfectly. She's a legitimate athlete who can run the floor at Clark's pace and has the defensive versatility to switch across multiple positions. The deeper strategic element is how well her skill set complements Clark's game. Clark is at her best when surrounded by players who can finish in transition, make quick decisions, and stay effective without needing the ball for long stretches. Timpson checks all of those boxes. She's not going to man post touches or isolation plays. She's going to run, cut, space the floor, and finish. Exactly the kind of profile Indiana needs around its franchise player.
I want to get to a conversation that was being had about if there's no 2026 WNBA season, unrivaled thought process and plans for this. And this is why they can't get mad that we've been saying this whole thing with them running unrivaled, being co-founders, but also being on the WNBA board is a conflict of interest. It's conversations and things like this on why they can't get.
Now the focus has to shift to what's happened behind the scenes, because while players like Timpson are praising teammates and preparing for next season, there's a real question about whether there will even be a next season as we know it. The CBA negotiations have dragged on for months, even as the WNBA has already released a full schedule, creating a strange and uneasy backdrop. At the center of it all is an unusual situation. Two members of the WNBA Players Association Board, Brianna Stewart and Nafiza Collier, are also co-founders of Unrivaled, a competing 3-on-3 league. And before anyone rushes to argue that this means they're trying to sabotage the WNBA, it's important to be clear about what a conflict of interest actually is. It doesn't require intentional harm. It simply means that financial incentives are pulling in multiple directions, and those directions don't always align.
Certain things you have to think about. I think that I want to get to this conversation, man, because this was very, very interesting.
Right? Like you had asked earlier, if there is no 2026 WNBA season, does Unrivaled decide like we're going to do a pop-up league somewhere? Do they extend their season? Do they start building out a second season? Like there are always a million different ideas that it does seem like the everyday fan is thinking about too,
And to say for the record, and this is how I feel, I don't think that Breanna Stewart and Afisa Collier are actively trying to...
Listen to how carefully this is being danced around. There's constant talk about what Unrivaled could do if there's no WNBA season. Pop-up leagues, extended runs, even building out an entire second season. These aren't idle hypotheticals being floated in a vacuum. They're contingency plans being actively considered by people who are simultaneously involved in negotiating the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement. Pay close attention to the language being used as well. Phrases like, the everyday fan is thinking about this too, frame Unrivaled expansion as a response to fan demand, when in reality it's a business protecting its interests in case the WNBA season doesn't happen. There's nothing inherently wrong with that from a business standpoint. Companies plan ahead, safeguard investments, and maximize opportunities. But you can't do that while also sitting on the board negotiating for the very league that may not have a season. Even when the host tries to give them an out by saying he doesn't believe Breanna Stewart and Afisa Collier are actively trying to sabotage the WNBA, the response isn't a firm agreement. It's hesitant. I thought that too, but I don't know. That pause says everything about how the situation is being perceived, even by those who want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
On getting the deal done and do something more reasonable. Y'all are trying to get everything in one CBA. Y'all trying to get everything at one time. It's not going to work that way. But the reason y'all are doing that is because y'all older and y'all might not be around when there's another CBA. So y'all don't care about the future of the game. Y'all want everything right now for yourselves. That's the truth of the matter. That's the flat out truth of the matter.
Like, they're not double agents that are in there pushing for a strike and pushing for the season to be canceled. Like, I think that is way...
And this is where the public messaging starts to fall apart. The constant refrain of just get a deal done sounds reasonable on the surface, but is intentionally vague about what getting a deal done actually means. The Players Association isn't simply pushing for modest improvements. They're trying to secure everything in a single CBA. Full revenue sharing, sweeping prioritization changes, protections for international play, permanent charter flights, and salary structures that would require massive revenue growth that doesn't yet exist. The underlying analysis is blunt but accurate. There's a push to get everything now because time isn't on everyone's side. Breanna Stewart is 30, Afisa Collier is 28, and the next CBA will be negotiated when they're likely in their mid-30s, possibly at the tail end of their prime earning years or already retired. That creates enormous pressure to maximize this deal because it may be the last one that directly benefits them. That instinct isn't inherently wrong. Every union tries to get the best possible terms, but it becomes a conflict when the same people advocating most aggressively for terms that could jeopardize the season also have financial interests in a competing league that would benefit if the WNBA season doesn't happen.
You know what? Listen, we don't know. We don't know. At the end of the day, they could get some more money from the WNBA, but they are co-founders in Unrivaled. If things go under and Unrivaled blows up and becomes the biggest league, nobody benefits more than those two. Let's just keep it real. Let's just keep it all the way real.
I don't think they're sabotaging talks if that's a conversation anyone's having. What I do think, though, is, and we've talked about this, prioritization. Like, that is something that for them, for players who play overseas, who want to continue playing overseas, for players in Athletes Unlimited, that is something that they...
Now we get to the heart of the conflict of interest argument, and this is where it becomes impossible to ignore. Prioritization, the rule that dictates which league players must put first, is one of the biggest sticking points in these negotiations. Players who compete overseas, those involved in Athletes Unlimited, and especially players tied to Unrivaled want the freedom to choose their commitments without WNBA restrictions. But the question is obvious. Who benefits most if prioritization rules are weakened or eliminated? Unrivaled does. Suddenly, their league wouldn't be competing against WNBA mandates. It would simply become another option in a player's annual calendar. Stewart and Collier aren't negotiating solely as players seeking flexibility. They're also negotiating as business owners who directly profit if that flexibility is granted. When someone says, that's where a conflict of interest really comes into play, it almost understates the reality. This isn't a hypothetical or theoretical concern. It's a clear, measurable financial conflict where the outcome of the negotiation directly impacts the success or failure of a business they own. If prioritization remains strict, Unrivaled has to work around WNBA schedules and restrictions. If it's removed, Unrivaled can freely expand its schedule and compete directly for players' time and attention.
At the end of the day, they need to get a deal done and stop playing around. This thing has gone on far too. Think about how long this thing has gone on, you guys. Really think about how long this has drug along and just gotten dragged out. Like, come on, man. Y'all got to stop it. Man. A deal should be done. We've already seen the WNBA release the schedule, okay? And we had players coming out and addressing, saying, oh, yeah, why are they putting out a schedule? The players was acting confused about the schedule. I tell you why they put out the schedule, because they going to get some replacement players for y'all asses if y'all don't sign that deal. I could tell you why they put out a schedule. They got to have the venues booked. They letting the fans know it's going down like Young Jock, and it might not be Nafisa Collier and such and such, but you gonna have Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Beckers, Kiki Area, Finn, Rakia Jackson. You gonna have Flau'jae coming to the league, Olivia Miles, and a bunch of replacement players. And at the end of the day, the most popular players in this league are the players that are currently under rookie contracts, if we're gonna be honest. Let's just be real here. That's just what it is. So I think that was the WNBA's message to these players is, hey, we about to move on without y'all asses. Y'all can stop playing games.
This is where the WNBA made its move. While CBA negotiations were still ongoing, the league released a full schedule, prompting players to publicly question why a season would be announced without a deal in place. But that reaction wasn't confusion. It was an attempt by the Players Association to control the narrative. The schedule release was a clear message from the league. The season is moving forward with or without an agreement. The uncomfortable reality is that the WNBA's biggest drawing cards right now are players on rookie contracts who are contractually obligated to play. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink before her injury, and Rakia Jackson are driving ratings and attendance in the incoming 2025 draft class, featuring Paige Buchers, Juju Watkins, Azzi Fudd, and Olivia Miles will only add to that momentum. Veterans like Breanna Stewart or Nafisa Collier could sit out, but Clark can't, Reese can't, and incoming rookies won't be able to either. Indiana averaging over 17,000 fans per home game wasn't about veteran contract leverage. It was about Clark. Connecticut's attendance spike against the Fever wasn't driven by CBA negotiations. The league knows this, and by releasing the schedule, it was effectively calling the bluff. Venues are booked, broadcast deals are signed, and the players' fans want to see are under contract. What this really signals is a larger fight over the league's future. This isn't just about one CBA. It's about whether the WNBA can establish itself as the undisputed premier women's basketball league or whether it fractures into competing interests. The Unrivaled model is intriguing. A compressed 3-on-3 season, high per-game salaries, and player equity. There's room for that concept in the basketball ecosystem, but it cannot coexist cleanly when the same players who own that league are also sitting on the Players Association board negotiating the WNBA CBA. The conflicts are too obvious and the incentives too misaligned. At this point, negotiations have dragged on so long that both sides are no longer just bargaining. They're preparing for possibility of no deal and positioning themselves publicly to assign blame. The Players Association frames the issue as greedy ownership, refusing to share revenue, while the league frames it as players demanding money that doesn't yet exist. Somewhere in the middle is likely a workable compromise, but reaching it requires both sides to want agreement more than they want to win a public argument. That's where the conflict of interest concern becomes unavoidable. Stewart and Collier may genuinely want both the WNBA and Unrivaled to succeed, but if forced to choose between a WNBA deal that restricts Unrivaled's growth or no deal that allows Unrivaled to expand freely, the personal financial incentives are clear. This isn't about accusing anyone of bad faith or sabotage. It's about acknowledging that negotiating becomes compromise when someone has financial stakes in two competing outcomes. The WNBA schedule release was a power move, but it was also necessary. The league has obligations to broadcasters, sponsors, venues, and fans, and it can't wait indefinitely. It has correctly calculated that its leverage is stronger than the Players Association believes, because the players' driving interests are mostly locked into rookie contracts. Meanwhile, players like Makayla Timpson are preparing for a season they hope actually happens. At 20 years old, she doesn't have veteran money or alternative leagues to fall back on. She needs games to develop, to increase her value, and to build her career, just like every rookie and second-year player in the league. Ironically, the players pushing hardest for maximum demands are the ones with the most financial security and the most alternatives, while the players who need the season most have the least say in whether it happens. That's the core dysfunction here. A reasonable deal, one that delivers real improvements without demanding everything at once, is still possible, and it's likely where this ends, with both sides claiming victory while privately conceding ground. But every day this drags on, the conflict of interest becomes clearer, the league's credibility takes another hit, and young players like Timpson are left waiting to see if they'll even have a sophomore season.